But the issue here is that Minister Duncan is standing 4 weeks into a crisis that has gathered national and international disgrace for Canada. He said yesterday he learned about it this past Thursday. Then he said Charlie Angus didn't tell him soon enough. Well, Kathleen Wynne, the Provincial Minister of Indian Affairs, was saying last Friday John Duncan was refusing to pick up the phone and answer her. So what the hell is going on when we have people slowly dying in sheds back home and Minister Duncan is refusing to answer the phone from the Provincial Minister of Indian Affairs who's trying to talk to him about a crisis with Red Cross going in? That's the question.
Is it your fault that we weren't warned about this earlier, that we didn't see the flag go up earlier? Is it your fault?
Well, it's very interesting that Minister Duncan has blamed the community, he's blamed the leadership, he's blamed me, and yet he said he had no idea that these problems were happening when his people, he said, were on the ground. And again, if he was so concerned, 4 weeks into a crisis where people were slowly dying in the cold, that he was refusing to take the phone calls from the provincial minister who was calling him, that he refused to check in and find out what was happening with Red Cross. This shows this overwhelming indifference for the level of this tragedy.
Yesterday you said that Attawapiskat was the tip of the iceberg. Today it seems that 2 new reserves have declared emergency state, état d'urgence. Are we going to have to look at this in a broader way now, or is it not enough just to patch at Attawapiskat and to do now? There are 3 communities sounding the alarm. What do we need to do?
Mr. Harper needs to stop trying to punish a ragged, impoverished little community that asked for help. What he's trying to do here is to blame the community, to drag them further into the ground. Today I'm getting calls from people in Attawapiskat who had their welfare cut off. So I ask you, is that value for taxpayers' money, that the people of Attawapiskat who stood out in the cold for a month asking for help are getting their welfare cut off? Because that's what happens when you're in third-party management. You don't get to make those decisions. So it's Attawapiskat, it's all across northern Canada. This is the moment where Prime Minister Canada should stand up and say enough is enough. We need a plan to rebuild the relationship with our First Nation communities.
Do you think they're responsible here, in your mind?
The person who's ultimately responsible for fixing this is Minister Duncan and Prime Minister Stephen Harper. The fact that this has been a century in the making, that this is the result of long-term systemic negligence, is the backstory. So they can blame every other government, we can all blame every other government, but it's this government that can fix it. And this is the moment when we can show whether Canada actually is willing to make it right with our First Nation communities, or we will continue to keep them on these Bantu-style homelands and keep them as third-class citizens without the same rights that other Canadians enjoy.
Do you think the meeting this afternoon between Chief Atleo and the Prime Minister will result in any changes at all?
I'm hoping that the Prime Minister will hear the message. I'm getting messages from First Nation leaders who are deeply concerned because they know what the message is here. The message is, if you're impoverished, if you speak out, we will punish you, we will take you down. And that's a wrong message to send to First Nation leaders. What they need to hear is a Prime Minister who actually gives a damn whether their people live or die.
Mr. Angus, the Liberals have talked about revisiting the Kelowna Accord. What do you think about that idea?
What we need right now is not to go back to 2004, 2005. We need a new commitment. We need a Prime Minister who's willing to say, this is the moment that Canada turns things around. I haven't heard that from Stephen Harper yet.
But it's kind of already there as a framework. What would be the problem of taking it up again at the moment?
Well, this is a new government. I'd like to see that Mr. Harper has a new plan. I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen Minister Duncan being able to show any kind of plan, because what they've not said, what they're going to do in Attawapiskat, they're going to move people into this hockey arena. You know what this hockey arena is? It's not like a hockey arena that Tony Clement built. This is a shed with ice. So their solution is they're going to take families and put them in a shed with ice. There is no showers there, it's inadequate heating, and then they're going to walk away on them because there's no plan. You haven't heard a single word from them that they are going to have a long-term housing solution. If Minister Duncan's serious, if he wants to take personal control of this community, if he wants to depose a democratically elected band council, then he better damn well say that I've got a plan to get these people out of poverty, because right now he's just taking people out of tents and sticking them in a shed with ice.
How many calls have you gotten about HUD welfare checks?
They just started this afternoon.
How many? Just one call?
I've had 3, so yeah, thank you.
Trying to get Canadians to focus on what happened to the supposed $90 million. What do you say to Canadians who have that concern?
I think Mr. Harper did a very calculated move. He basically blew the dog whistle for certain basic Canadians. He said, bad Indians, taxpayers' dollars. He didn't have to say anything more. That they misrepresented the money, that they exaggerated how it was being spent, that they didn't tell Canadians that there's online audits. What that says to his base is damn right. Be hard on them. But what I'm hearing from the rest of Canadians is this is a humanitarian tragedy of epic proportions. Why is it that the government is at this point blaming the victim lying on the ground, saying, you know what, we're going to punish you even further? If there's questions about finances, sure. But nobody ever stops in the Red River in the middle of a flood and says, hey, how come we're throwing this money at your communities that keep flooding? No, they don't say that. All Canadians rally, all Canadians help out. But when it's one of our communities in the north, when it's First Nation kids, it's like, hey, what did you do with our taxpayers' dollars? That speaks volumes, I think, for the less than subtle message that's being given out here. It's a politics of division.